everyone, welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and our weekly look back at the hot comics from 6 months ago. This week we're looking back at the hot comics from February 5th, 2021. I'm recording this on August 6th, 2021. As always, we're looking back at the CBSI Hot Top 10 and the Comic Tom Key Collector Hottest Trending Comics of the Week. They each put out a list of 10 books each week. Technically, the Key Collector puts out 20, but Tom actually uses 10 of them for his video. I look back at those lists, see what those books are doing now, so that we can all kind of understand what made those books get hot in the first place and how they performed in the market since, so we can make better decisions about what books to be patient on, what books to chase. So with that, let's get into this week's list. We got 17 books to talk about, and I will say, I was oddly optimistic. I did do a cash or trash this week, and I was oddly optimistic on some of these. Not sure why. Looking back at them now, didn't make much sense. But so this was a poor week on Jason's predictions. We will say that, but we'll get into that as we go. First up, we have Sandman, number 4, first appearance of Lucifer. This hit the list because we had casting news for a bunch of the people for Sandman with the show coming, and we found out that Gwendolyn Christie was going to be playing Lucifer in the Sandman show. So that caused raw copies of this to jump up to around $100. 9.6 went for $175, and now it's sitting 80 to 115 for raw copies. 9.6s are sitting 215 to 295. I said straight cash on this. Really, it's been worth it and kind of steady. Yes, the 9.6 value has jumped quite a bit. Good luck finding a 9.8 of this one, but there's like only a couple of those sales. The vast majority of copies are these raw copies, and they're sitting right in that same range. So I'm going to go with steady and worth it on this one. There are just very few slabs out there and very few slab sales for this particular book. Next, we're going to talk about a little option news, a book on the list for the second week in a row. But really, it's not because it went up, continued to go up. It's because it's just on opposite lists. That happens sometimes, and this is Electric Black number 1, and this is because there is news of a horror cartoon based on the series coming out. Back then, raw copies were going for 20, 9.8 hit 70, which is not very much, but now raw copies are going 10 to 20, 9.8s are up to 100 to 120, which is pretty typical for any kind of 9.8 that has any value as $100. Seems pretty standard. This one I predicted a trap. It's been pretty steady also. A little bit of an I'll be back versus a worth it because it's come down a little bit. But yeah. So with that, we're going to move into our covers. So we're going to have two kind of option type TV show type stuff that wasn't MCU DC related. So first up for our covers, we have Star Wars The High Republic number 2, the Ashley Witter 1 in 25 variant. Did have some firsts, I think, in this, but this one jumped to a $60 to $100 book right out the gate. There was a lot of buzz around High Republic. A lot of people wanted this 1 in 25. Now raw copies are sitting 25 to 35. A 9.8 only goes for 70 to 100, so the same price as those original raw copies we're going for. So this one turned into a bit of a trap. This is one of the ones I whiffed on. Typically, Star Wars 1 in 25s, if they start out hot, stay pretty hot. This was not the case with this one. This one definitely dropped way back down. Next, we have Amazing Spider-Man number 55, the second print, Gleason 1 in 50. So this is the white and black versus the black and white. I guess I got that right. Of that cool 55 cover. This 1 in 50 was really highly sought out when it came out. It was going for $80 to $90 at release. Now it's going 60 to 80. 9.8s can be had for $175, $200. So this has been a bit of an I'll be back, down just a little bit. There are quite a few of these. The second print was highly ordered because people wanted this cover. So this definitely has come back just a touch. Still good value for a book that's only 6 months old. It's still going for over ratio, which is pretty good, but about what we kind of figured for this one. Next, we have The Encoded, number 1. This Joel Herrera variant was hitting $25 just because it's kind of a sexy variant. Now it's a $10 to $15 book. Not a lot of interest in the series. There has been one 9.8 sale, went for $62. So this is another one that's kind of just turned into an I'll be back. Just not a lot of buzz around this series other than this particular cover. Next, our last kind of cover of the week is Maniac of New York, #1. This is the Luna 1 in 15 variant, and this was hitting $25 at release. You could claim it's still going for $25, as the last two raw sales were for that. A 9.8 went for $70. That's only one sale. There's been no raw sales since the beginning of May. All the listings are $20, $25 that are out there, and nobody's buying them. So this definitely has turned into, is down, even though the sales, what sales there were, this is down because nobody's paying that price right now for this book. Another series that just hasn't maintained a lot of buzz. I've heard a couple people say good things about it, but for the most part, there's a couple of people and nobody else. So with that, we're going to move into a little bit of comic buzz. The list this week was definitely dominated by Disney and MCU stuff. So our comic buzz, this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures #1. First appearance of Bebop, Rocksteady, Krang, like everything Turtles. This book jumped back in the winter. 9.8 jumped from basically $1,000, $1,200 book to a $2,000 to $2,200 book for several sales. Now it's a 9.8 is now an $800 to $1,200 book, back where it was when this jump occurred. Raw copies were going 50 to 150, depending on condition. Not sure what caused this book to really hit the list other than just general turtle buzz. But this one has definitely dropped back down. Long term, this book is like what I predicted, straight cash. I think this book will get back to where it was if you hold it long enough and you don't panic and sell. But definitely over this 6 month period, it turned into a bit of a trap. So next we have Batman 96, the Jorge Jimenez 1 in 25 variant. This is the first appearance of Clown Hunter, and then obviously he's on the cover of this 1 in 25. Raw copies back then were going for 50, 9.8s were hitting 125, and this was because there was speculation that this guy was going to be the person that they're going to make Red X, with Red X reappearing, with rumors of Red X coming. He was appearing at that point in the Future State stuff. So people were speculating that maybe this was Red X. Now the book is 30 to 50, 9.8 down to 90, or sitting 90 to 140, so in the same range. But overall, it's just down a little bit of an I'll be back. This is one I went against my pattern. I wrote down straight cash. I don't remember. I didn't go back and look at the video. I should have, to see what my justification was this, because I don't understand my own justification on this one. Obviously, if we found out if he was Red X, then it was going to be, the book would have jumped some more. But we didn't, and he's not. Or, well, we don't know that he's not. We just haven't found out yet. So, but this book is definitely down, and definitely an I'll be back. Next we have Batman 442, first Tim Drake as Robin, and this is because Tim Drake was announced to be joining the season 3 of the Titans show. They're cranking through adding new Robins to that show really quickly. Back then raw copies were going for $10, 9.8s were hitting 100, which is super cheap for this. I always felt like these Tim Drake books are super undervalued. I realize they're high print, given the time period they were released in, late 80s, early 90s kind of stuff. But I always felt like, boy, this is, $10 seemed like pretty cheap for this book. So I thought maybe this was an impetus to get it to take off a little bit finally. Nope. Raw copies are now 5 to 15, 9.8 still sitting at 100. So this has been very steady, very much an I'll be back. Someday I feel like Tim Drake's gonna do something, he's the least valued Robin book, but maybe he's not got the audience, even though he was the Robin when I feel like most of us were kids, like most of the collectors when we were younger, that grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, he was Robin. But so far, not a lot of love for Tim Drake. Next, we're going to move into Disney Plus and Marvel, MCU stuff. First up, we have War of the Realms, New Agents of Atlas, #1. And this has multiple first appearances. Arrow, Luna, Wave, there's a couple others, I think. And this was basically rumors that Marvel and Disney were working on a show of Asian characters for the Asian market, but that they would also release here for Disney Plus. Raw copies were going for $20. 9.8s were going for $260 because people felt like this was a good target for that kind of show if they were going to do it. Now the book is actually, I thought this would be an I'll be back. See, I was just way off this week when I was making predictions. Now the book is up. It's 40 to 50, so it's continued to climb. 9.8s are sitting 150 to 175, so it's kind of doing the same as those Strange Academy books. There's nothing for sure yet, but people are just specking that this is a good target, and so it has continued to climb, at least over the 6-month period, as people are hoping to be out in front of any sort of announcement. Next, we have Captain America, number 275. First appearance of the second Baron Zemo. And this is basically, I think, trailers we're starting for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We knew Zemo was going to be a part of it. That's what's caused this book to hit the list. Raw copies were going for 20. 9.8s were hitting 260. Now raws are 15 to 50. So to me, that's up for the most part. Most of the sales are kind of 30-ish. Depending on super high condition ones go for 50-ish. 9.8, there's only been 2 sales. They seem a little out of whack to me for what raw copies go for at 600 and 850. But those 2 sales are definitely, now they were way back in May, which would have been not that long after the end of the show. So there hasn't been really any sales since. But yeah, so this one is, for the most part, up. It's been a bit of a straight cash book over this 6-month period here following Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Not sure it's going to keep that up over the next 6 months. I'd be surprised. So next we have Black Panther and the World of Wakanda, number 1. And this was based on rumors and maybe even an announcement that we were getting a kind of Wakanda-based show for Disney Plus that would not necessarily follow, like, well, obviously no T'Challa, but even like the leadership, it would be more based in the country of Wakanda. So people were expecting maybe there'd be some of these characters. Raw copies jumped to $20 on this one. I thought this was an I'll be back because there wasn't even any confirmation here just yet. They are supposedly working on it, but we don't know when the timeline is for that. Now raw copies are 5 to 15. So this was definitely an I'll be back. So a book that you can still get. And if they do something, we don't know if this is going to be the route they would go, but if they do, not a bad buy at $5 to $15, obviously. Next, we have Black Panther and the Crew, number 1. The Damian Scott, 1 in 25, and this had everything to do with the same show rumor. Another book people were specking on, maybe they would go this route with the Wakanda show. Raw copies of this jumped all the way up to $75. Now at 50, but that's one sale. There's only been one sale in the last 3 months. So this one's definitely turned into a trap. There's just not a lot of interest in this book right now. No one's willing to pay those $50 to $75 asking prices. They're just not. So that's why there's only been the one sale. Next, we're going to go full into the Spec Machine, which is Silver Surfer number 3. The first appearance of Mephisto, and if you were living under a rock, you might not know that everyone and their brother was like, Mephisto's going to be the villain of WandaVision. Mephisto's going to be the villain of WandaVision. He was not. We have not seen Mephisto yet. But it was causing it to hit records across all grades. Now, this is a straight cash book long term, obviously. 8.5 back then went for $2,700. Just one, the record that they reported. Now, raw copies are 300 to 1,000, depending on condition. 8.5, the same 8.5 recently went for 2,700. So basically, this has been super steady over the last 6 months and worth it. But my guess is long term, this is going to be street cast. This is going to be a book that continues to climb just because of the book. And if we ever eventually get Mephisto, then it'll jump some more. Next, we have Thor number 459. This is the first appearance of Thunderstrike. And this hit the list because there were set photos released from Thor Love and Thunder that showed Chris Hemsworth, who plays Thor, in a shirt that kind of looks like Thunderstrike's 90s outfit with the cut-off sleeves and all this kind of stuff. Remind you that Thunderstrike is not Thor and a different name. It's a completely different guy, completely different character who tries to pick up Mjolnir and has similar powers and that kind of stuff. So it's not Thor. This was Chris Hemsworth in a similar outfit to this guy. And this caused this book to jump. Raw copies were going for 25 to 50 back then. 9.8 were hitting 100. I called this a trap. It was a trap. Raw copies now are 5 to 15. So if you pay $50, ouch. 9.8s are still kind of in that same 75, 125 range. not many sales there. Although somebody did pay $250 for one, which was a complete outlier, and it's way above even the asking prices for the ones that are listed. So yeah, that's just a out there sale, but I did see that. So, but overall, this book, vast majority sales are raw copies, and this has been a trap on that side. Next, we have Thunderstrike #1, because if we're going to go in for Thunderstrike, we might as well double down. And its first solo title, raw copies were going for 20 plus. Now they're going for $1 to $15. Another trap. Again, this is not Thor doesn't become Thunderstrike. This is a different guy, and we didn't see that guy. We just saw Thor in a similar shirt. So with that, we're on to our last book of the week, which is Amazing Spider-Man number 257. This is the first Ned Leeds as Hobgoblin, and basically the actor, and I'm blanking on his name at the moment, who plays Ned Leeds in the current Sony Disney Spider-Man movies, posted to Instagram, and he was working out, getting in shape, and he looked good. People were like, "Oh, that must mean they're going to turn him into Hobgoblin." That's it. He was working out, so then he must be preparing to be Hobgoblin. Or maybe he's a kid trying to get in shape. Anyway, raw copies jumped to $20. 9.8 jumped to $190. Raw copies are still 10 to 40. I thought this would be a trap. It's turned into kind of an up and worth it. 9.8, only one sale, which went for $400, which seems extreme to me, but hey, people are convinced this is going to happen at some point, even though this character is not really, this version of Ned Leeds is not anything like the original comic book version of Ned Leeds, but that's where they think it's going. Even though we haven't gotten Green Goblin yet, people are convinced. So this book has continued to grow a little bit in value. So that's this week's list. There's 17 books. 8 of them were Disney and Marvel related, which is not unusual on this list. No Star Wars this week, though. So I want to thank you guys for watching, and we will catch you next time.